Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind with me, Larry Weidel. Let's get started.
Good morning, beginners. This is Diana Macias. On today's call, we have part 2 of Million Dollar earner Mario Arrizon interviewing Larry Weidel. Let's get this call started. I'm going to turn it over our host, Adam Weidel.
Thank you, Deanna. Let's hello to Mario and Larry. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mario, I'm going to hand it off to you to get us going.
All right, perfect. All right, Larry. So, man, last week's call was unbelievable. And, Larry, we got so many people asking more questions, and we didn't get to finish, some of the big topics that were on the call that I wanted you to expand on, Larry, because I think this is vital for people can have explosive growth just like you had. And one of the biggest things was what were your guidelines? What would you do, Larry, for explosive growth?
Okay, Mario, thanks so very much. And Mario, I'm enjoying this so much. And
Absolutely.
That's the whole idea. When you start a new thing, you got to be numbers oriented. You can't sit around, pinch yourself, look how pretty everything, this, that, the other. You got to be go, go, go. And you got to have big dreams. We want to do something big. I don't want to do business as usual. And we look out there. For me to do business, to get really excited, I got to think about number one. I'm not good enough to get people excited about going for number two. And so that's the stinking message, everybody. It's like, well, it was great. I'm all fired up. People are really fired up. Fired up about what? What are you doing? What's your goal? Don't miss the message. I'm showing you what I'm doing at my level so you can get and look at yourself. What am I missing? Maybe I don't have a goal that's lit the deepest furnace to really cause my insides to roar to life. We started looking at this, saying, you got to start thinking the possibilities. What do you think about? What do you think about the wild possibilities? You got to get a game plan in your mind that you can get excited about that makes some kind of sense to you, enough sense where you could feel like it would work. They say it can't be done. Why don't we go for it? So in your life, what are you going for? And see, the realities that drive me is success is not an accident, Mario. So I've got to work hard. I've got to have a strategy, but I've got to have a goal that really fires me up so I don't forget about it. You don't forget Christmas. You might forget President's Weekend or one of these other minor holidays. You don't forget Christmas, Easter. You don't forget your birthday. And why do people say, well, I lose focus? Because you don't have any goals. You're not going for anything great. And so I know that, it's got to work hard. You got to have a strategy. You got to have something that's like super duper exciting for you, or you're going to be a meatball. How you going through it, and you can settle into the meatball mode real easy. All of us can. You got to be able to coach yourself. And so I started thinking, Larry, maybe you're in meatball mode. You thought you were the big hitter caller, got all these people coming in, Weidel hierarchy, just taking it for granted. Maybe you're in meatball mode. So that's what I said. Well, what would be the greatest thing? Go for number one. See if you're good enough. That's what we did in the beginning, and that's what we did. And so, Mario, that's what's behind it. And success is not guaranteed, and that's why I overdo. That's the second chapter of my book. You got to attack that growth is not an option. And all this is leading up to the replacement guidelines, because if you don't understand this thing, you don't have the compelling drive to follow through, and these guidelines are just other crap that you've learned about and but you don't use them. You know how you learn the business? You do the business. You go out with somebody who's doing it. You know how you learn the promotions, the guidelines that are going to work for you? You do the darn things. And so growth is not an option. I always push for growth. And things can always be better, but they ain't going to get better by themselves. And if they're not getting better, they're getting worse. And so the bottom line is, if you're going to be happy, satisfied, content, fulfilled, you have to win. And past a certain point, winning is getting a lot done, but pretty soon you're going to run out of time. And you're going to need to start adding people to your team. And you're going to know you need to know how to treat them and to bring them into the vision. And, the thing is, people say, well, I believe in God, and I believe God's got something great for me, and I believe he wants to bless me. But he can't bless a sack of crap. He can't bless a bag of garbage. He will. I mean, he can take, he can go to the dump and turn it into a Ferrari. But if he takes you and you're disorganized and you're sporadic and you don't even inspire yourself, you're not going for anything, you're not disciplined, you don't have a philosophy, you don't have a game plan, and you're just a meatball. Well, if he blesses the meatball and turns you into a monster of success, you know what that message is? You don't have to work. You don't have to be organized. It's going to send a message. All you got to do is prosperity gospel. That's a big lie. Believe in Jesus, and you can make millions. He'll just give it to you because he died on the cross. Paid your, for your sins. So he's going to save you, and he's opening up an account now for you, so you can have a free $1 million a year just because you believed in him. What a load of garbage. Prosperity gospel, my butt. You're going to have to work. You got to do what everybody else does. You know what I learned, Mario, when I was 28 years old? You still, the thing about being a Christian is he gives you the power to do all the work you got to do, but you still got to do massive work. But you just got a different source for it. But you got to get organized where you can be blessed. And so, there's a saying, it's the greatest thing that relates exactly to this, Mario, in the service yesterday, Romans 13:7. This senior pastor who's turned things over to his son, here's what he's doing in his quote-unquote retirement. He's translating the Bible verse by verse. And it's, some people not only translating the whole Bible. That's what I'm going to do, in my retirement. Anyway, how about that for a goal? I bet he's more excited, more gung-ho than he's ever been in his life. And so he gave a translation on Romans 13:7, which is, he's talking about the gold, the medal winners, honoring the military. And it said, give honor to those who deserve honor. And what he said there really got my attention. You know why? Because they inspire us. And so, isn't that the greatest thing to be somebody who has so much success, has got so much drive that you inspire other people to greatness? But you got, and he goes and talks about, he had all the examples, but it takes courage to say, we're going to go. And then when somebody stands, that's what I want you guys to get from this message. If you are in charge of your family, for your kids, in charge of your business, in charge of wherever you are, if you want that world, family, team, business, club, whatever, to do great things, somebody's got to stand up and say, we're going for it. And it has to do with anything. I mean, one of our guys up in Richmond went over on our expansion, we did the UK in 2003, and he got involved in just to meet people with the Cambridge Shooting Club. And the Cambridge Shooting Club was the worst. But he went in and said, we're going to be number one in Britain. We're going to kick everybody's butt. They were looking at him. What an idiot. Guess what? Within 2 years, they were number one in England. Somebody's got to stand up and say, I'm going for it. I got the guts to go for it. Who wants to go with me? So that's the message that we're trying to get here. That's what we're doing with Operation Warpath. It ain't business as usual, because business as usual doesn't get you anywhere. You've got to overcome the traction and the friction that wants to hold you in place, all the interruptions. But, if you're going 2 miles an hour down the road, anything that happens will stop you. You can't even run over a tree limb on the road. That's all it takes to stop you. But if you've got momentum, you can jump over anything. And so, anyway, that's the idea. So what was the question, Mario? You wanted to know about my guidelines for...
Larry, you're awesome, man. Larry, yes, I want to talk about that because I think there is a confusion. We hear something and then we hear something else. And one big thing that I learned on the Big Hitters call, and I learned from you and from the Giants here, is little guidelines, little income. Big guidelines, big income. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misunderstood that. But it helped me build $1 million income and help my guys get big. Expand on that, Larry. Am I wrong in my thinking?
Misunderstand what? You don't misunderstand anything. What exactly?
Maybe I don't know. I never seen that small never equals a big income, but maybe I'm wrong because there's different things. I don't know.
Well,
expand on that.
You're asking the wrong guy on that, and you got to get big, man. You got to get big, and you got to make up your mind to get big. That's the whole reason before I went into guidelines. It's just I hate wasting my breath. I hate telling people how to do crap that I know they're never going to do. And I know this stuff inside out, but I don't want to talk to a lady. You know what the Bible says? Entrust yourself to faithful men and women. Don't cast your pearls before the swine. And the swine are the people who are laying in the mud, grumbling, just trying to get through the day, looking for a little kernel of corn or something, but just happy to slop around. And so the main thing I want to tell people is you got to wake your butt up. Otherwise, learn about these guidelines or nothing. The part that I said up till now is to tell you it's a waste of your and my time for you to be listening to me about guidelines for promotions if you're not going to go for something great. Because the first thing you've got to do is make up your mind to go for something great, and then you recruit people to that vision. Then when they get in there, like Ali Carew said, they're doing the numbers, and he's driving it to prospect. Now your message is about big, 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 big. It's about huge. It's about unlimited growth. It's about changing your life, opportunity to become financially independent, totally rock solid, secure financially, in charge of your life. And people talk about domination and growth rather than doing these little piss-poor presentations. I tell you what, it starts with a vision. Then you recruit people to that vision, and then they take that vision out, but you got to reinforce it. I mean, it can, the air can go out of the tire if you don't. So that was the whole thing about being a person of honor and being a person, because you're able to do something great. You had the courage to stand up and go and do something great, like he was talking yesterday about these Medal of Honor winners who go in there and they got, in war, they put themselves in line of fire. Some of them have jumped on grenades to save their team. Courage, that inspires people. But, folks, if you're not going to inspire anybody, if you're not going to have the courage to go for any great, you need hang up. Go talk to a wholesaler, make a sale, be happy, pet the dog. But in the real world, you got to go for real big things. And so let's go to – but that's where it starts. Because then people want to grow. They want to work hard. They want to be like you. Let me ask you this. Your people want to be like you? They want your life? Are they inspired? I learned a long time ago, you got to be the person your people think is the hardest working person in the world. You got to be the person your people think have the biggest vision in the world. You got to become the most inspiring person in the world they know personally. Every time they get around you, you got to fire their butts up. And you don't do that by any kind of game, just by being you. So anyway, here's the guidelines, my promotion guidelines. Let's get exceptions out of the way. It's stupid to handcuff by saying yourself you never make an exception. Even if you're at factories, you're not going to have a perfect one out, 100 out of 100. That's why they have factory outlets, folks. And people have different. People are different. People have different circumstances. You need to have the heart and the humanity to recognize that. When I was in high school, we got Christian David. Christian, when I was in high school, the coach really didn't like me because I was one of the Air Force kids. And the town people up in in the Hamptons, some of them had a bad attitude towards the Air Force kids because we were pretty much better than everybody else. But I really couldn't jump as a basketball player. I was a stinking high scorer on the team, but, I couldn't really jump. I was vertically challenged. I was the white guy who can't jump. So he would always run these drills in practice where, everybody, you get in the line, everybody runs down and see if they could touch the rim or how high over the rim they get. He knew I could barely get the stinking net, and he just would run that drill every day to humiliate Wydell, Well, what if they had a thing like that where you got to be able to touch the rim before you can play? Well, I would have never gotten the game, but I turned in the high scorer on the team. And so people are different. People have different circumstances. You got to be able to modify things to people because their guidelines are not set up to be rules. Let me tell you this. Never let yourself – we're going to talk about guidelines, but never let yourself be bullied by guidelines. Guidelines are there to serve you. You are not there to serve the guideline. And when it comes to exception, the greater the manager, the smarter they are about when and how to make exceptions. And you know how often you make it? About 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 times. Because 9 out of 10 times you better follow the dadgum guidelines. You ain't going to have any guidelines. So you don't want to make exceptions. You don't want to make it known that there are exceptions. But give your freedom to make the exception if you have to. It's like investing on a stock. Sometimes you take a bigger risk. But if you take a bigger risk every time, then everything you invest in is risky. Is that too hard to understand, Mario?
No, I love that. I love that, Larry. That's awesome.
It's like you. You were young, single, this, that, and the other. We don't recruit young single people because they're not in the market. They don't have the jobs. They don't have responsibilities. They don't need the insurance. They're not settled down where to start in the investing, and all the other products. They're just not in our market. But every now and then somebody you say, I'm going to make an exception. I like this guy. But if you make it every time, you don't have any guy, your whole thing falls apart. And if you do that on your, but if you like in your investing, you get the safe stocks, the normal stocks, they've got good fundamentals. But every now and then you take a flyer on a super risky thing, but it might turn out to be an Uber. And so it's the same thing in RVP promotion. Occasionally, rarely, you make an exception, but not much. I was going to wrap this up and get into the 5 things I had people do and the 5 things I had them be. But the deal is, folks, this is like life. This is why you have to have a big goal. See, I got a big goal for this hour. We had, I got people listening. I got a time frame. I got a deadline. I got to get it done. And so if I get a disconnected signal, I'm going to get it fixed right now. Because why? We got a big goal. We got a lot of people listening. We only got we got a half hour left. And so that's the way it is with your life. You're always going to have these interruptions. That's why you have to have intensity about what in the heck you're supposed to be doing right now and when you're supposed to get it done. This is the way it is. And so don't make many exceptions. It undermines your systems, beliefs, and credibilities, but make them when you need to make them. And don't make the people feel bad. Make them feel good. Don't emphasize what they didn't do. Emphasize what they did do. Because sometimes people just have disasters happen to them out of the blue and knock them out. And there's just no reason to put them through all that rebuilding if they're ready to go. You just use your own thing. 1 time out of 20, 1 time out of 10. And so I'll talk more about that if I need to down the road. But 5 things you have to do. And I'll tell you right now, there's no easy answers on this. In terms, you got to hit this, that, the other. Rigid little fragile deadlines. You have to do this and this. And if you do this, you get out. Stupid, 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 because people can manipulate. So here's 5 things you have to do. Number 1, you got to be far and away the best leader with the biggest team consistently in my base. The only person that goes out of my base is the biggest and best and obvious. You got to fight your way to the top of the stack. And folks, in my world, there's a lot of people then that fight their way to the top, a lot of competition. You got to claw your way to the top and be far and away the best one to be next in line to go. Everybody's got to know your time for you to go. If you're not the best with the biggest team consistently in my base, you ain't ready to go, darling. But first of all, you want to go, here's what you got to do. Here's what you got to do. Forget these specific guidelines. You got to be far and away the best leader with the biggest team on my team. Anyway. So, 3, do you have 2 strong legs or the equivalent, like a combination of a bunch of districts? God gracious. If you and your team are consistently make money, growing month to month, if you've created a track record of success, and you've created a track record of growth, you know what? You're going to have numbers. I'm trying to prepare them for the realities of life, and the realities of life, it's brutal out there, buddy. You got to be tough. Life is going to try and knock your butt out. And if you can't handle it as a trainee, Mario, anyway. Okay, so here's the last one, Mario. Bottom line, you got to do. Here's what you got to do. You got to create momentum. Do you have momentum? I'm not going to promote you without momentum. You got to be able to create momentum, and I got to see that you will sustain and maintain your momentum. Are you working in a solid in a systematic way? Do you have a system about you? Do you have a routine? Do you have a schedule that will allow yourself to duplicate yourself as you go out there? You're just going to get better and smarter and better and smarter. When you go out the door, you darn well better have a system about yourself so you can improve and you can duplicate in spite of the fact of all the things you don't know. Because you've got to duplicate and compound. Otherwise, you don't have a systematic way about what you do. You're going to be up and down, start and stop, and 15 years later you're going to say, why am I still floundering? So I was always trying to set them up to explode out of the gate and keep running. So I've got them thinking about momentum. That was the 5th thing. Do I need to repeat those, Mario, real quick, and then I'll go to the things you got to be. You got to be far and away the best leader with the biggest team, and you got to write clean business, and your people got to do the same. You got to have 2 strong legs of the equivalent. You got to be blowing away the minimum, and you got to have momentum. I've got to know that you're a pro, that you know what you're doing. You do it whether you feel like it or not, and you get better at it. You got momentum from that because well-run businesses grow. Okay, those are things you got to do. Now here's 5 things you got to be. You got to know the business. If we toss your butt out of a plane and give you a parachute and drop you out over someplace in Iowa, you've never been there before, you got to know the business so well. If no one ever comes there, you can build, not only survive, you can build a growing, thriving business because you know the business. The other thing, you got to be able to manage money personally. You got that, the bottom line, you got to be able to know how to live within your means and save money. Not spend everything you've got. You got to be able to put money aside for taxes. You got to put money aside for your future. You got to be smart enough to manage money personally to live between your means. That's the second thing you got to be. Third thing you got to be is able to manage business finances. The tax world, the structure, the fees. Good gracious, what we went through. 800 entities to get licenses and permits and this, that, and the other to get over in Worth Avenue. But we got them, and we're open. They made it for sale, Gallery Y. But see, it's a good review. You got to be able to manage business finances because IRS is not going to understand if all the state. You got to, there's a lot of things you got to keep up with. And so you can't overbuy with your office. You got to be able to stay within your financial budget and afford, get an office you can afford. Then work hard, get a bigger income, then get a bigger office. But can't be someone who, with no income, going and signing a 5-year lease on a 5,000 square foot place on a hope and prayer that God will bless me. Yeah. That's stupid. God's not going to bless stupidity. So every now and then he'll save your butt when you've been stupid, but he's not consistently blessed stupidity. Good quality of business. That's the third thing. It's manage your business finances well, which is, again, stay within your means. Good quality. The fourth thing is persistency. Got to have good. You've got to be somebody who just naturally stays in the market, and your people is somebody we don't have to worry about persistency. And you got to have not only that's persistency with your product. The fifth thing is you got to be persistent with your people. You got to be somebody who can make a commitment and live up to it. People can trust that you're not squirreling. You're not all over the battlefield. People can believe in you now and you tell them something and they trust because they know you're going to follow through. Folks, we got to be your banker as you go out there. I mean, you're going to build, you're going to grow, you're going to get all these checks, you get advances. If you're squirreling and we can't trust you, and then all of a sudden you do something stupid and have a big chargeback, we have to eat that money. I don't want to promote someone squirrely I can't trust. Those are 5 things you got to be. That's what I did, Mario. That's it.
Larry, that was awesome. And Larry, one thing that I want to expand on, and that's good because you get a lot of clarity there on doing things big, right? And Larry, one of the things that people are curious because you actually lived it. What were Art Williams' guidelines to get promoted to RV?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Is that a total shift in emphasis from you got to hit these numbers and hit that numbers? Do you like that approach of the 5 things you got to do and the 5 things you got to be more than looking at a particular target that they can manipulate their way to hitting?
That was good. I never seen it that way, Larry. That was actually really, really good. That was powerful.
Well, see, this is what I did that worked, man. I promoted a ton of people, and they survived. They did great things. But you got to start talking to them early. And so you don't grow to become a functioning independent leader by somehow manipulating your way up to ding, 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 hit a couple of numbers 2 months in a row, and then you go out there, you're going to fail. So you want to know Art Williams' guideline for promotion? Art never had any guidelines for promotion because he never ran a base shop. That's the truth. When he ran the base shop, you weren't promoting anybody. All you were doing, we were back with these other, we weren't independent. Art never ran a base shop. He ran us. In other words, if we're talking about the National Football League, he never had a team of himself that he had to run. He was a commissioner of the league. And he's the commissioner of the league saying, you set up basic general guidelines. Like in the NFL, there's 32 teams. But they're all independently owned. They're all independently developed. The commissioner didn't develop them. Art didn't recruit one single person for me. He did send me Lou Miller, who then sold out and was gone. But, he did refer somebody to me. There's a limit to how much you could stick your nose in somebody's business when you didn't build it, Mario. Someone wants to stick their nose in your business? Well, first let me go back and have you pay my rent for the last 15 years or 10 years, and then you can open your mouth. But until then, shut up. I'm running my business. I built my business. So Art would put out guidelines and suggestions and this, that, and the other. But, he's like runs the league where the people, the malcontents, will go to the league and say, blah, 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 blah. And so he's just trying to keep peace in the family with his comments and all. But he wasn't able. It wasn't he wasn't capable. He probably built $1 million base shop. He probably built a $2 million base shop. I'm really not interested in Art Williams' guidelines for promotion past a certain point because he's never operated in our world. I've told him that. But have no mistake about it. Art could have built a $2 million, $5 million base shop. I mean, he's a monster. But he just did not have that capacity from the compensation that the company that we worked for at the time. And so he was the original pioneer in helping getting this thing going to the point where we could improve. Mm-hmm. And so I would never do anything but honor Art Williams. You might like or might not like Donald Trump, but I'll promise you don't like everything he says. You might like or might not like Barack Obama, but you don't like everything he says. So you might like your parents, but you don't like everything they say. So, I love Art Williams, but I'm not going to agree with everything he says. When he pays my rent, when he pays your rent, then he can have final say. How about that? And right? Come on.
Larry, that's awesome. Larry, I have one big question. Because I think, by hearing what you were telling me in the beginning, because I want to do it big, what should I do, Larry? And I asked you this, and you gave me some tips on this, and it really helped me grow my business. And I want you to tell me your attitude about replacement and how you handled replacement, most importantly, in a way that allowed you to get big fast, that your RVPs got big, that you got big, because replacement is our secret weapon that people try to copy and it destroys them because they don't know how to do it, but you mastered it and you had explosive growth and you helped me have explosive growth also. So if you can expand on that, Larry, to close out the call, that would be very powerful.
Well, I can say this. Look, if you're not growing, replacement's not a big deal. Let me ask you this. Do you get a lot of pushback on replacement, Mario?
You know what? Not from the guys not for the guys that are doing it right, like my big divisions, my big regionals. No.
Thank you very much. For the people, if you got a blowing and going base shop, and the people that are inside, they're growing because a well-run business grows. And when they're growing, they know not to hang on. They hate to give up a replacement to go, but they know, there's more coming. There's a river coming. If I don't get this salmon, there's an endless stream of salmon coming down the river. But when you're in a dead pond, there's no growth. You haven't built a river of business. You built a pond. It's just a mud hole. People say, well, if I give you my replacement, I'll never get anything else the rest of my life. That's the primary problem people have with replacement. They have no momentum. They have no track record of growth. They have because people, if they're looking up, like you guys, are you over $2 million yet?
No, not in my original business. With both, yes, but no.
Yeah, with both, but not with the original business. So, and by the way, congratulations on that. Unbelievable.
Thank you.
But the thing is, your guys know you're going to go over it, right? They know you're probably going to go over 3, 4, 5. So they know the future's unlimited inside Mario World. And so they're expecting things to be big in their world. But you got guys trying to get replacements off of people that have no vision, have no growth, and the people behind them saying, man, I'm never going to be able to have a team. I'm giving this guy, I'm just going to be a salesman the rest of my life. They just can't see it unfolding where they don't think the replacement is worth it because they don't see themselves ever getting a replacement in the picture of the world that you have painted for them because it's not moving forward. So the first way of getting the replacements is you got to be blowing. That's why I started off this whole stinking call. And it went over everybody's head. It's a waste of time to have management guidelines if you're not going to have a big vision and get big numbers and momentum and be the person to drive it, because then people follow in behind you and they'll agree with you. It might be uncomfortable or whatever, but they'll say, oh, this is going to pay off. If you're in a growing business, you've been taught a system, you can understand, I'll give up a replacement one time, but I'll be able to get them the rest of my life. And if they see you promoting RVP steadily, 10, 20, 30, they'll say, wow, I can get 10 or 20 or 30 replacements myself as I promote out my RVPs for this one I'm giving up. But if they don't see you promoting anybody, you're the one poor slob who went to RVP underneath out of that base shop the last 1 in 20 years, they're going to say, good Lord, I'm giving up my replacement. I'm not going to get nothing for it. They can't visualize being able to get replacements. So that's so for me to tell a guy like that how to handle replacements, it's a lost cause. So that's why I have a little sticking point. Okay?
That's awesome. Guys, one big thing Larry, I'm going to just say something about me that helped me out tremendously. Guys, look, communication is the key to replacement. And look, guys, one of the things that I thought was there to destroy me, I'm like, oh, my God, Susan's taking, my best person, my upline, right? I'm like, how can she do this to me? Now I'm like, thank you, God, Susan, that you were tough on me. Thank you, God, that our Art and Susan were tough on me and took a big replacement, because now that's all I get. I get big replacements. And our people, Larry, they fight to leave the biggest replacement. That's when you know you got the right mindset. When they're like, what's the minimum I can leave you before I get – you're doing something wrong as a leader. You're doing something wrong as an environment. When they're thinking like, man, I want to be big because I know whatever I invest, I reap tenfold, 100-fold. Nothing stops you from getting 10 replacements down the future, 20, 100, doing it big. But, man, I've never seen somebody that does basically low standards, low income, big standards, big income. And I remember hearing some of the calls of back in the day saying, man, to get promoted, you had to move to another state, bill a render. You had to leave everything behind and move to another state. I was like, wow, man, that kind of thing fires me up. Why? Because the contract's so worth it. Because now you're going to be able to do it. And then what a blessing.
Yeah, that's what I did. I left 75 code numbers. But the thing is that, Mario, people have got to get the picture. You got to get in this game whole hog and go for big, and then all these things start to work out for you. It's not, you're never going to figure it out being small. You got to figure it out by getting big, and all of these things will start to work for you. A lot of things to talk about. Hope this has been helpful. And Adam, I think we've wrapped up. Marty, do you want to say a final word and then turn over to Adam for the last comments?
Absolutely, guys. Look, one of the biggest things that we always focused on, I'm like, man, what are the giants? I wanted explosive growth. And I didn't see anyone have explosive growth having a small mindset. So that's why I got on these calls. And as soon as we focused on being the biggest division, then the biggest regional, then we became the biggest. Guys, you got to fight for that. You can be big. You can be big. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can be big. You can make a decision that you're the one. You're the one, and change that hierarchy forever. Change that bishop forever because you decided to be big. And I can't wait to be interviewing you on the Big Hitter Call or from Uncle Larry interviewing you because you did it big and you're explosive growth. You have what it takes to do it big. So go get it done.
Thank you, Mario. That's great. Well, I guess that wraps it up, right? Go, everybody. Have a big week. Goodbye. Thanks for listening to this episode of $1 Million Mastermind with me, Larry Weidel. If I've helped you in any way, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. For more information like this, listen to our other $1 Million Mastermind episodes, and check out my Weidel Academy YouTube channel and visit us on WeidelOnWinning.com. I'm the $1 Million Mastermind, and until next time, go, go, go.